Bo Bishop, Gerard Cherry with you. Time to head out on that Twisted Tea hotline presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it Twisted Cleveland. He is a great friend of the program. He's one of the best in the business. He is on the NFL on CBS, of course, college football on CBS now, of course, and then NFL Draft Network analyst as well. In addition to that, he has incredible taste in television shows. He's the great Charles Davis, and he joins us. Gerard and I, Charles, were having a conversation about when do draft analysts and then beyond draft analysts, NFL teams, shut off the information that they're willing to accept? So I'll pose the question to you. You have your guys together that you like. When do you turn off the new information and say, this is how I feel about these guys. There's nothing else I need to hear or see. I have true conviction about these players. When has that happened for you?
That's a great question. And first of all, hello. Hope you guys are doing great. I'm not sure anyone ever truly, totally turns it off because there's always something that comes through. But I think the more experienced you are in this, and I'm not acting like, I've got this thing down, okay? So understand I'm learning every day. But I think the more times you go through it, the more that you can continue to accept information all the way up till draft time and filter it. Mm-hmm. Earlier in your career, you get to – I'll put it to you this way. We were in a draft a few years ago, and the night before the draft, actually the day of the draft, there's this huge report that came racing through that a player had XYZ issues in the last 24 hours and now would not be, eligible or so. Like, what? Wait, what? Mm-hmm. And this was a guy that we expected to be picked in the first couple of rounds. So now everybody's just ringing phones, calling. It's gone bonkers. And as best I can determine as we sit here today, multiple years later, there's absolutely nothing to it.
Wow.
But so you have to learn how to filter as you go. I'm not saying you always get it right. Look, these poor kids that go through it.
Yeah.
When Will Levis walked in the room 2 years ago, when he walked into the draft, I think you guys probably remember, you heard someone say, Will Levis is rising. Could he go in the top 10, the top 5 tonight?
Yep.
And poor kid didn't get drafted the first night, had to go home and get drafted, the second day. I think it's a terrific question. I think the more experienced people, they've got it pretty well locked down, and they'll take other things that come through. But for the most part, it has to be really, really compelling for them to move off of where they already are.
And, Charles, for me, an interesting dichotomy that's taking place with the quarterback position is that I see Shedeur Sanders, and I'll say allegedly slipping, while I see a Jalen Milroe ascending.
Yep. Yeah.
Why? From your perspective.
Look, everybody's got good PR nowadays, right? Like, you're not worth your salt if you don't have good PR people. And you may have people who are placing things in the media with us, because we are all media members, right, to either help or hurt. Sometimes you don't want to be in a certain place and certain things are said so that maybe you end up somewhere else. Somebody really wants a certain player and doesn't feel like they can get to them early. So if you get something into where they're slipping, maybe it works and you get all the way down to where you are and you take them anyway. There are a million things that go on, but I'll put it to you this way. It's very simple to me. Neither one of them has thrown a football in competition. Shedeur hasn't since the bowl game. Mm-mm. And Jalen Milroe hasn't since the Senior Bowl. So what exactly has changed that much? Is a pro day going to change it that much for most people? The best quarterback evaluators I know tell me no. The pro day doesn't change it that much. You take it into account and you analyze it, but it doesn't change it that much. Remember Teddy Bridgewater's pro day? Mm-hmm. When he decided he was going to show everyone he could throw without gloves?
Right.
Because he'd heard all the chatter about the gloves, and it could not have gone worse for him. I think it's one of those days where he was without the gloves, it got in his head, and he had a bad day. He's still picked in the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, it could only hurt. Laramie Tunsil in a gas mask. Oh. I don't know that there would be a worse optic. I just don't know that there's a worse optic, right? Inhaling a gas mask with a Confederate flag over the back, in the back of the picture. And he slipped. Remember, he was supposed to be probably a top 5 guy. He slipped to 13. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great players, great people. People have evaluations. It takes a lot to blow things up, guys.
It does, and it's also, Gerard and I were talking about this, Charles, like Shadeur's low-hanging fruit. Everybody knows who he is. His dad's one of the most famous athletes in United States history. Like, everybody knows who he is. So, like, from a content perspective, it's easy to talk about him, and it's easy for you to take an aside on him. So it's almost, I mean, it's like this happened with Tebow in the lead up to that draft. When you're it's going to happen with Arch Manning in 2 years or whenever he comes out. It'll be the same thing because it's just easy to talk about him. And so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, but your point is so well taken. But here's the thing for all of those guys, every one of those guys that you named, for every great thing that is said, there's a bunch of people that are jealous, tired of hearing about them, sick of those guys, didn't like the dad, whatever it is. So Shadeur's had to handle it both ways.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just he's propped up because he's Deion's son. Because, I'm reading those reports now. Well, if this was somebody else at quarterback, you wouldn't even rate him a second rounder. Okay, got it. The flip side is there are plenty of people who are hoping he slips on the banana peel, right? They're hoping that he does fall on his face and fail because they didn't like Deion. They don't like how Deion's done it here. They don't like this. They don't like that. I don't believe I'm in a position where I am defending nor am I boosting. I'm trying to evaluate. But I do think I see it very clearly that a good number of people, a number of the evaluations are much more rooted in, I don't want him to succeed, as opposed to what do you really believe about him as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I
agree.
That is interesting. And, I certainly see that angle and sentiment. You can feel it and sense it at times. And I'll be frank with you. I always felt that, yes, he's a good prospect. At the same time, I didn't see the second pick overall in my own evaluation, and it had nothing to do with prime time because, heck, I wore shoes growing up. So I was a fan. So it wasn't the issue for me in that regard. But I do think this is a truth. If there's anyone better prepared to be a quarterback in the National Football League based upon being in the league and understanding how it works and adaptation to it, I couldn't see a better prospect than he because of where he's coming from and his upbringing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and it gives him a leg up. He's been living this lifestyle since he realized it was a lifestyle. Like once he realized who his father was, whatever age that flared in, right? Whatever age he was at an event, he was at something, he was at the playground, and someone said something, oh, man, you're Prime's kid, or wow, oh, here comes little Prime, because I can hear parents now. My dad would be the type of guy, hey, there's little Prime over there, That's that sort of a thing. And he's like, this seems good, right? This seems good. And then he goes on, and of course you go on and you flare into it. All of those things do come into play for him. The overall evaluation, though, I think is a fair one. You have a number of people who say, okay, what is the outstanding trait that we're talking about? Because typically you talk about the number 2 pick in the draft. They have traits that you can point to and go, this is excellent. He excels here. He does it. I think for him, the best parts of his game are he has experience with the spotlight. I think he's got enough I think he's got enough arm to do what he does. He's got accuracy, and I think he's got toughness, extreme toughness. He got hit a lot at Colorado. Some of that was his own doing, holding the ball too long, not speeding up the process in what he's doing. But he answered the bell all the time, and they won a bunch of games, after they got their footing underneath them, right? Went from 4-8 and really essentially reversed the record the next year in contention for a conference title down the stretch. Won the conference title at Jackson State. The kid understands that part and understands how to play. When you tell me what his most outstanding trait is, I'm not sure you're going to have one. I'm not sure you're going to say, well, not his arm. Well, he's certainly not the fastest you've seen. He's not the biggest you've seen. Those sorts of things that come into play. But his package and being able to play, I think, from the pocket better than the other quarterbacks we're talking about, I think is there. But I think like all college quarterbacks, his process has to speed up. Okay? Look, you can tell everybody. They think they can get out of anything in college. And in most cases, they're kind of right. And then they try and get out of something early in their pro days, and they get run down like they're out in the veldt. And zoom, bang, whoa, where did he come from? I remember Russell Wilson told me that last year, his first year. He said, I used to dance around, move, and all that. He said, I took off going one of my early pro games, and I had clocked where the backer was. And next thing I was on the ground, and I looked up, and it was him. So where the heck did he come from? How did he get here so fast? It's a different level. That's what they all have to go through. I'll just leave it with this. Caleb Williams tape from last year in Chicago where he took all those sacks. Everybody's like, God, that line's terrible and all that. I'm not saying the line was a bunch of world beaters. They weren't the Eagles. But you turn on the tape, he's got to take ownership for a lot of those sacks. Because he tried to keep plays alive. He tried to get out of stuff. The stuff he did at USC that worked so well doesn't always work on the NFL level.
No, it doesn't. Talking to the great Charles Davis, NFL draft analyst, NFL on CBS, college football on CBS as well, coming up next season. We are 9 days out, my friend. Let's add another job for you and say you're the general manager of the Cleveland Browns now. What would you do with the number 2 overall pick in this draft if you were the Browns?
First things first, if I'm Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and ownership, I've identified whether or not I want to use it on a quarterback. And I know who the quarterbacks are that I want to use it on. I don't know what their list says. I don't know if the list is there one guy we'd use it on? Is there 2 we'd use? I don't know that. All I'm saying is, would I use it on a quarterback, and do I have that quarterback rated to where I would take him if I had the opportunity? Okay, so that comes down to really, do you like Cam Moore? Do you like Shedeur? Are you going to throw Jackson Dart in there? Are you throwing Tyler Shuck in there? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to do. That's your first move. You know the deal. Quarterback that I like is there, I'm taking him. If not, who is the next person that I like the best? Do I like Abdul Carter better? Do I like Travis Hunter better? And I'm prepared to make my selection. You got to know, have you made a decision? If the phone rings, do you have that conversation, or are you stuck on, I want one of these options? They're going through all that now. Andrew Berry's going through all that. He's prepping everybody for what they want to do. He's sitting in with the Haslams to talk about this. Obviously, he's sitting with Kevin Stefanski, his scouting group. Ultimately, he makes the final decision, and they know as a unit how they go forward. But to me, it all starts. Is there a quarterback I like? And if he's there, am I taking him? If he's not, who's the next person that I want? And I make my pick.
From your perspective on this, and it feels like Cam's going to go 1, who do you
it
love?
Does feel that way. I agree.
Who do you love the most? Position agnostic. Who do you love the most? You gotta get a player here. This guy I know will be a player.
Yeah, Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
for me, it's Travis Hunter, and I don't care which side of the ball you want to start him on. But I had a great conversation with Rondé Barber, the Hall of Fame corner. He took me and a few other people through a breakdown of Travis as a corner. And, when you listen to the greats talk, you learn, right? If you just shut your mouth and open your ears, right, you learn. And I'm sitting there learning from Rondé about different things. And he took us through him as a corner. Okay, and a lot of the tape was, well, this is wrong here, and this technique's bad here, and this is bad. Oh, yeah, he just broke up the pass. Okay, he took a false step here. He did this wrong. He just intercepted the pass. He's like, he just needs work in the technique. That's all he's talking about. Just give him work on the technique, and he's going to be phenomenal. But the last thing he left us with was, if you're going to play him full-time as a receiver, much harder to play him part-time as a corner. Mm-hmm. If you're going to play him full-time as a corner, much easier to play him part-time as a receiver. And he talked about the technique that goes into it. Less technique going with the receiver position, where sometimes you just out-athlete people and do things. The technique as a corner, you screw that up, you've just given up 6. And that was kind of where he left it. That was his belief, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Personally, if I draft him, I'm figuring out which side of the ball I'm putting him on, and I'm going in there full-time, and I'm sprinkling in the other stuff lightly until I know he's got it and he continues to grow as a person, mature, body gets bigger and stronger. Guys, I don't think he played at 180 pounds last year myself. I have nothing empirical to prove it. That's just my belief. I know he weighed 188 at the combine, but you know what we do for that. We got guys who cut weight to run fast. We got guys who add weight. We got guys who are drinking right? They're drinking all that water, and as soon as they step off the scale, they sprint for the bathroom and stay there for a day. I mean, we know how all that works. I just think that his body is going to continue to grow and mature. That's what I'm going to want to add more and more to him as he masters one side of the ball. And if I'm Cleveland, he's playing receiver for me right away.
Yeah, that's interesting because there are a report out, I can't confirm it, that Hunter made the statement that if he doesn't play both sides of the ball, that he will not he will not pursue his career. Now we don't know if that's true or false.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So,
no.
So with that being,
no. Like I'm all for him wanting to play both sides of the ball. The idea that he's going to be like take his ball and go home because he can't play both sides immediately, I just think that's folly.
Right.
I think that whoever drafts him is going to work with him on that. Let's say we master this side first, and we'll lightly sprinkle in some stuff. I think that's fine. We've seen that throughout time in the NFL where people have done some of that. And then let's see how much more you can handle on your plate. I know you played 115 plays a game in college. That's wonderful. Maybe you'll play less plays in the NFL, but the hitting that goes along with it, you're playing grown men. And by the way, he ran a lot of routes and beat people downfield that were guys like me. I was a decent college player. I didn't make it in the NFL. Every guy you play against in the NFL is an NFL player. It's a different deal. So that's all I would say. And the idea that he's going to take his ball and go home, I'm like, yeah, I have a hard time believing that early.
You, one of my favorite things you do, NFL.com, you can read it. Your 12 pound the table for athletes in round one. If you had to pick a favorite, other than Travis, who you've expanded upon quite eloquently and I think appropriately there, who is the one that you're like, I love this guy?
It's the one that I took probably the biggest leap on is Willie Lampkin, the center out of North Carolina. He's just too small and doesn't weigh enough. But I can't stop loving him. He had a big Senior Bowl week, meaning he battled everything that came his way. He's a center at 5'11", 270. Okay? That's supposed to be converted to maybe a fullback. Can you play fullback? Like we've seen people do that before, convert from another position. Can he do that? We'll see. But I think he's a really good player at center. I just don't know if he's going to be big enough. So I'm pounding the table like crazy because I want him to get a full shot at center. And it's funny because I kept saying, well, he's AQ Shipley. He's AQ Shipley. Remember AQ? Ended up starting for Bruce Arians with the Cardinals on that great run when those Cardinals teams were really good, and they went to an NFC Championship game with Carson Palmer and crew. And I was like, he's AQ Shipley, who was undersized. His arms were too short, the whole deal. And then I went and looked it up. AQ had him by 20 pounds. I was like, oh, man. I'm really out on a limb on this one. But he's the one that I'm just crazy about. And the second one would probably be the linebacker at Oklahoma, Danny Stutzman.
Oh, he's a player.
I just think he's a heck of a player. I look at him and I see Leo Chanel coming out of Wisconsin, just about 20 pounds lighter than Chanel. You match up all their combine stuff, you'll be in shock. They're almost twins and everything in the combine except for 20 pounds.
Buddy, I'll get you out of here on this one. Congratulations in order. You have added to your duties. You're going to be in Big Ten country, buddy. When is the last time, for example, you were in the horseshoe?
Probably when I was doing Big Ten Network.
Been a minute.
So whatever year Big Ten Network opened, and probably
07.
about 3 years after that. So probably around 2010, 2011, somewhere in that neighborhood was probably the last time I was there. More than likely, I'm guessing somewhere in that neighborhood. But you do know I don't start it this fall.
Oh,
so
next year. The next
fall.
year. Okay.
Yeah, I started next year. This is Gary Danielson this is his retirement year, and he gets to go out and get the kudos that he more than deserves. I'm really thrilled for him. And all I'm trying to do is stay out of his way and let him soak it all in and take it in and get the praise he deserves from all these years. It's just so strange because this is the second year, I think, CBS with the Big Ten Network. Yep. I mean, with Big Ten package. All of his years were in the SEC, so the lap really should have been around SEC country. Right. But I hope the Big Ten fans will recognize the 30-plus years of excellence Gary has brought and give him his due because he's just been phenomenal. So I'm going to stay out. Listen, this is Gary's year, not mine.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when you return to Columbus, we got your back there, buddy. In 2 years,
Hey,
when it
I
comes,
appreciate
we
that.
got you on that side of things. So
I
look forward to
appreciate
that.
Always great to come to Big Ten country. I had a blast doing Big Ten Network. I really did. Did with Tom Brenneman
Mm-hmm.
and Carissa Thompson was our first sideline reporter, and then I was with I was with a number of different people there, but we really just had a ball. I mean, absolute ball. So
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I'm looking forward to that in 2 years. So I'll see you in 2026. Where they say God willing and the creek don't rise, as they say down south.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you as always. Appreciate you.
Hey, great talking to you guys. Enjoy draft time. Take care of yourselves. We'll hopefully see you soon.
There he is, the great Charles Davis, NFL draft analyst, NFL on CBS in 2026, college football analyst at CBS.